Real estate is a party. Okay, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me once again for some more real estate content.
I love my kids, I love real estate.
I'm super excited to get started with today's video. If you'll remember from my previous video, today we're going to be talking about how to choose a brokerage to work for. So if you're recently licensed as a real estate agent or you're looking to get licensed, one of the next important steps after you take and pass your exam is going to be to choose a brokerage to work for. So once you pass your exam, you're going to be getting lots of information from many different brokerages in the mail. My advice would be to definitely reach out to as many people as possible because it's important to have those conversations with different brokerages to really be able to narrow down what's important to you in a company. It also gives you a chance to meet lots of cool new people. I met so many amazing people in my search for brokerage, and even though I'm not working at all of those companies that I talked to, I had to choose one. I still really value all of those people that I got to meet, and I'm hoping that I can still work with them in some form in the future because truly I got to meet a lot of cool people, and that's just another upside to talking to as many companies as you can. Some offices are closed now due to COVID. So if you're unable to go to the office, then of course, you'll have a phone call or a Zoom with them. For me, I really liked actually going into the office when I was able to. It's really helpful to actually go to the office to get a feel for the culture of the company and see if that's a place that you will thrive in. So some of the companies that I talked to were Remax, Keller Williams, Mayton, which is a team that is local to Portland, Oregon First, which is also local to Portland, and Next Home, which is where I'm currently at right now. And if I'm looking to the side, it's because I do have notes over there, so don't mind me as I'm just sort of glancing at my notes from time to time. So those are the companies that I talked to. With Keller Williams, it's important to note that there are different branches of Keller Williams. So I talked to two that are local to me. One of them was Keller Williams Realty Professionals, and the other one was Keller Williams Portland Premier. Both really awesome companies. Just important to note that they are, even though they're under the Keller Williams umbrella, they are a little bit different. They differ from each other depending on what branch you are going to be working at. So there are many other brokerages out there that I didn't get a chance to talk to, such as Berkshire Hathaway, John L. Scott, eXp Realty, Coldwell Banker, just a whole lot. And of course, you're not going to be able to talk to every single one of them, but I would pinpoint several that you're really interested in and definitely set up a meeting with them so that you can figure out where you're going to thrive the most and what brokerage is going to be best for you. So interviewing at a real estate brokerage isn't quite the same as interviewing at a regular job. Not that real estate isn't regular, but it is a little bit different. It's a little bit more entrepreneurial than other jobs, and so the interview process is of course different. So with a typical interview, you go in and most of the time they're asking you questions and you're pitching yourself, you're pitching your skills and your personality to them, and then they make the decision of whether or not they want to hire you based on if the information that you've given them fits in with the position that they are trying to fill. With real estate, it's a little bit different. You're going in and most of the time they want you to work for them. They want to hire you from the get-go because they benefit directly from you being a part of their brokerage. They get a percentage of some of your commissions, of some of your transactions. So it's a little bit different in that when you go in to talk to them, you are coming in with a list of questions because you are trying to determine if they're the right fit for you. It's not always exactly that scenario. There are some smaller real estate teams or boutique brokerages. They're just, smaller companies that are looking for a very specific type of person, and they want to make sure that you fit in with their company culture, and that's really awesome too. It just depends on where you're interviewing, but most of the time they want you to work for them, and you're the one that's pretty much making the decision of whether or not it is the right fit for you. Alright, now let's get into what type of questions you should be asking brokerages when you go in to meet with them. For me, two of the most important categories had to do with training and fees. Those were super important to me. I wanted to make sure that I was getting really awesome training and education in a brokerage, and I wanted to make sure that all the fees were spelled out for me so that I knew exactly what I was paying for. So we'll start with training, and I have my list of questions here on my phone. I would literally bring my phone with this list on it in my notes app to the meeting, and I would pull it out and have it in front of me because if you're anything like me, I can be very forgetful, so I wanted to have that list in front of me so that I make sure that I ask every single question that I wanted to ask. So don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to bring your phone in and refer to it. Just be like, hey, I'm a little bit forgetful, so I'm gonna refer to my list here to make sure that I ask you every single question that I have written down. Okay, let's get into my training questions. So the first question that I have on here for training is, What does training look like for new licensees, and how much time is dedicated to this? Different brokerages will allot different amounts of time to training, or they will say, we will train you step by step for a certain amount of transactions or a certain amount of weeks. And so you want to get a hold of what that time span is. How long do you have to really get on your feet and do your training and make sure that you're ready for your first few transactions? So that's the first question that I would ask them. The second one is, are there classes offered in general as well as specific classes geared towards new licensees? Most brokerages do have classes that you can attend. They have, or at least the company that I'm at now, they'll have live classes, live training, and then they'll have recorded webinars and training and on various different topics. And so you want to ask, are there classes offered for continuing education that I can access at any time? And are there classes that are specific to new licensees? Specific to people that are just getting started in the business, because I think that's really important as well. The education material for people that have been in the business for a while versus people that are just getting started is a little bit different. So you want to make sure they have material that's geared specifically towards new licensees. The next question that I have on here are, how many transactions will I receive help with? So will someone be coaching me step by step through the transaction? Different companies, again, will have a different set amount. I know Keller Williams, usually for the most part, they'll help you with 6 transactions. They'll have a coach helping you. Sometimes there is a fee associated with that, and sometimes there isn't. So you want to make sure that you're asking, first of all, is someone going to be coaching me? And for how many transactions are they going to be coaching me with step-by-step help? And is there a fee for that? Do I owe them a percentage of my commission for that training? That's a really important question. Now, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to look for the brokerage that isn't going to charge you for training, because sometimes, you're going to be paying a percentage of your commission, but if that training is really valuable and they're truly walking you through step by step, then it might be worth it. And sometimes, you might want to not be charged for that. So honestly, it really depends on the quality of the training, truly. So, it's important to ask if you do have to pay for it or not, but it's equally as important to ask how good is the training. And so you probably don't want to word it like that, but you want to get a handle on how hands-on they're going to be, how they're going to train you, if they're going to take you to shadow open houses or to shadow listing presentations. How good is that training? You want to ask. You want to make sure that you know exactly what that training entails and whether or not you have to pay for it. So sorry, that was a little bit long-winded, but again, I think this is one of the most important parts of choosing a brokerage, especially for a new licensee. Next question I have on here is there a specific person who handles training for new licensees? This is important because you don't want to just be, a drop in the ocean in the company. You want to make sure that there is somebody there that is specifically there to help new licensees. So in the company that I'm at right now, Next Home, I have been paired with a coach, Rebecca. She's amazing, incredible. I meet with her a few times a week, and she is there to help me specifically. We talk about my questions, about where I'm at in the process, my specific needs. I love that the training is tailored specifically to what I need in that moment in time. Classroom type training can also be really awesome. I'm definitely sort of a type A personality. I love being in a classroom. I love having my little notebook there, and so I totally get if that's kind of what you're looking for. But for me, I've been really loving having individualized training, a coach that is there to specifically help me with my needs. So again, definitely make sure you're asking, is there a specific person that handles training for new licensees? So the next section we're going to talk about is fees. Super important as well. There is a lot to unpack here in the fees section. I'm going to be referring to my notes a little bit more here. Maybe I'm going to be glancing a lot because I want to make sure that I cover everything and have all the information that you're going to need. So let's get started. The first thing in the fees column, I guess, that you're going to want to ask is about the commission split and the commission cap. So I'm going to explain what that means in detail. So a commission cap is when you have made a certain amount of money. So let's say, for example, once I make $10,000 in sales, once I've, helped people buy and sell houses and I have made a commission of $10,000, after that $10,000, I have capped. And after that, I do not have to give any percentage away to my brokerage anymore. So I hope that made sense. I'm going to explain it one more time. So when you are working in a company, you are giving a percentage to your brokerage off of every transaction. So right now the split, and it's a pretty common split, right now the split that I'm at is 70-30. So 70% goes to me, 30% goes to the brokerage. But when I cap at $10,000, when I reach that $10,000, I don't have to give away that 30% anymore. 100% of that money goes to me. And there are usually transaction fees and other things that you still have to pay for, but that big split, you do not have to pay anymore once you've reached your cap. Different companies have different caps. They are not all the same, so you want to make sure you ask, is there a cap, and what is your cap set at, first of all? And second of all, what is the brokerage split? How much do I owe to the brokerage on every transaction? 70-30 is a pretty common split, but you want to make sure that you clarify that. That is super, super important. The next thing is, are there monthly fees? Some brokerages have monthly fees and some don't. So monthly fees, often referred to as desk fees, are usually covering like office space, office facilities. Sometimes there's also a franchise fee, which might be included in the monthly fee or not included. It really just depends on the company that you're talking to. But you want to make sure you get a good handle on whether you're going to be paying anything monthly and what that cost is going to be and what that cost covers in detail. Ask them, if they tell you, hey, we have this monthly fee, ask them, what specifically am I paying for with this fee? What am I receiving in return for paying this fee? What's the reason for it? Make sure you're definitely asking that. Another thing that you're going to be paying for is E&O insurance. So that stands for errors and omissions insurance. Oftentimes that's incorporated into a transaction fee. Off of every transaction that you do, you're going to be paying a set fee for that E&O insurance. And basically what that is to just make sure that you're covered in case you have made a mistake on your contracts or your forms, which fingers crossed, hopefully you won't. But if you do, that E&O insurance is there to protect you. So you are going to be paying that, and you want to make sure you ask, where does that fee come in? Because sometimes, they'll have a transaction fee, so you're paying a certain amount on each transaction, like I mentioned previously, and you want to ask, is the errors and omissions insurance a part of that? Is that something that I'm going to be paying for? So you want to make sure you're asking that, and you want to make sure that you know exactly how much that costs. Finally, you're going to be asking about training and mentorship fees. Like I said previously, in some companies you will pay for training depending on what type of training they offer, and in some companies you don't. Now, like I said previously, that should not be the defining reason as to why you choose a brokerage, is whether or not you have to pay for the training or not. That's important as well, and you want to ask that, but it's also important that you make sure that you get a good handle on the quality of training that they're offering. If they're offering individualized mentorship, or if it's a classroom type setting. Not that one is better than the other, you just want to decide what is best for you, for your personality, and for your learning style. So definitely ask what the fee is, if there is a fee for training and mentorship. Now before we move on to the next section, there's another thing I wanted to talk about under the fees umbrella, and that is going to be your across-the-board costs, as I like to call them. These costs are not specific to any given brokerage, because all the fees that we talked about previously, they depend on where you go to work, which company you're going to be working for. But these three costs are going to be the same because they are just costs that are associated with becoming a licensed registered realtor. So that first cost is going to be your realtor dues. In Portland, we call that PMAR, or Portland Metropolitan Association of Realtors. In order to be a part of the Association of Realtors, both in your state and nationally, you have to pay your realtor dues, and that cost is $795 annually. If you start in the middle of the year or towards the end of the year as a new realtor, you don't have to pay that entire $795. That cost is prorated for you, so you're only paying for the months that you're actually working. But after that, it is going to be $795 annually. In order to be a part of this association and be able to market and advertise yourself as a registered realtor, you do have to be a part of PMAR, or whatever the association is called in your specific state. You have to pay those realtor dues in order to be able to advertise as a registered realtor. Then you are going to have to pay your RMLS. So in order to be a part of the RMLS, to have access to the RMLS, you are going to be paying about $170 to $175 per quarter. And the last cost is going to be your zip forms. So in order to have access to all the contracts that you're going to need, all of the paperwork, you're going to have zip forms, which is $89 annually. These costs might vary depending on what state you're in, but as far as I know, they're pretty standard, and no matter what brokerage you go to, you will have to pay these 3 costs, so just keep that in mind. Alright, so now that we've talked about training and fees, we're going to talk about the rest of the questions that I had on my list. They don't fit into either one of those categories perfectly, they're sort of miscellaneous, but they're equally as important to ask. So, next question is going to be, if I start with you, do I have to sign a contract that requires me to work for you for a specific period of time? Most brokerages that I talked to didn't have a contract like this. They wanted you to be able to leave if the company wasn't the right fit for you. They didn't want you to be tied down for a certain amount of years. But some brokerages do require you to sign a contract like that, so you definitely want to make sure you ask so that you're ready for that commitment if you're having to make it. Another question you might want to ask brokerages when you're interviewing with them is, do you help generate leads for your agents? Now, when you're working as a sole broker in a brokerage, usually you're not going to be fed leads. If you're working in a team, and I will talk about the difference between the two in depth in the next video, but if you're working in a team, they oftentimes will help generate internet leads or Zillow leads, so that's a little bit different, but when you're working in a brokerage, that's not usually the case. But I still recommend asking this question because there might be opportunities in order to find clients and help generate leads. So for example, in the company that I'm working at right now, sometimes there will be an agent in a different part of Oregon that has a potential lead in Portland, someone that's looking to buy or sell in Portland, and they'll reach out to everyone and say, hey, I have a potential client that is looking to buy or sell in Portland. Does anybody want to take this lead that is from the area? And then Portland agents will respond, and whoever responds first is able to work with that client. So that's an opportunity for lead generation and for gaining clients. It's not like you should completely depend on them bringing people to you, but it's definitely a nice benefit depending on what brokerage you're working for. So definitely ask this question when you're interviewing. Another question that's important to ask is, how do open houses work, especially for new licensees? Is there going to be an opportunity for me to shadow someone else, and are there going to be people available to help me with my first few open houses? Another question that you want to ask is, do you provide your agents with a website, and can I customize that website? That can be very, very beneficial because a website is a professional platform that you can link in all of your social media, and you can send your clients there so that they can learn more about you both on a professional and a personal level, and people can reach out to you on there too. You can set up links to your email so that they can quickly get in contact with you if they're looking to buy or sell. So definitely a very beneficial tool. You also want to ask about signs. Do they provide signage, or do you need to pay for it yourself? You want to ask about the availability of the principal brokers and the coaches. How quickly do people reply? How available are people when I need help with a transaction? And finally, in the age of the it's important to ask, how have all of these changes affected your brokerage? Is your office open? Do people go into the office and work there? Is it available if I want to bring clients there for meetings? How has it changed your operations, if it has changed it at all? And how have your open houses changed because of it? A lot of people are requiring different open house protocols now, and so you definitely want to make sure you can get a handle on what that is before you start working for them. So there you have it. Those are all the questions that I think are super important to ask brokerages when you go in to talk to them. There are definitely a lot of questions on here, so I am going to list them all in the description below. Everything is going to be there. All of the costs that I talked about too, the fees, are going to be listed there as well, so I'm going to have all of that there for you. And I'm so happy that you joined me again today for some more real estate content. I had so much fun, and I'm looking forward to the next video, which will be about the difference between working as a sole broker in a brokerage and working in a team. Alright, thanks again for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you found this video beneficial or helpful, and definitely don't forget to follow me on my social media. My Instagram is @Irina Dee with 3 E's. I'll link that in my description box below. I will be posting a lot more real estate content here shortly, so definitely follow me on there. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me today, and definitely come back next week for a new video. Alright, bye!